Okay, just a quick update, no update. I've been working on a bunch of stuff not related to pinball. I had a baby shower slash diaper party at the same time. I have a lot of family and friends that are scattered throughout the state and stuff. So we just did it all in one in a big event that we had to plan. So it took time to plan that. Also the day of, we got to do that. That's a whole day that I'm not working on pinball. This whole week I've been working on reorganizing my entire garage, building shelving, moving things. I mean, it's just been like a lot of work. I probably put 20 hours just into that. It gave me back probably 50 square footage of space, so this is nicer. I ended up CNCing my first pinball playfield. This is the first time I've used Pinball Designer to cut a playfield. Worked out as expected. So I have a side project that I was working on a few weeks ago. Hopefully maybe in another week I can show it off, or we'll see where it gets. It is related to making a prototype game that you could see. With doing that, I've got some new light boards that I got in. If you look at making cable harnesses and you're going to connect all these lights, there's like 80 lights I think in my Foo Fighters game. So if you want to actually manually connect every single light to every other light without doing a light board that contains like 5 or 10 different lights in it, where you get a circuit board and you only have one jumper for that whole board. If you're doing it light to light to light to jumper, you got eight jumper connections you got to make per light. So it kind of adds up, and it's time consuming. So I've been evaluating crimping. A tool to crimp and make jumper connections for cables is about 20 grand. Same with, I said, with, the wire bender that I was building. So I made a wire bender for about $100 that usually would cost about 20 grand. I'm trying to see like a little bit, I put a little bit of time into it. I don't want to worry about it now, but looking into making a cheaper machine that could crimp wires a lot faster and a lot cheaper than 20 grand. So we're talking like a few bucks. Yeah, the other option is like I had looked at Fast Pinball's light board system as well. You can have jumpers, or you can hard solder every wire and every light to every other light, because they sell individual lights. Cobra Pin sells individual lights. I do it the same way. Anyway, so I'm just kind of evaluating options and trying to get as efficient as possible. I'm just going to go through some videos here that I've watched. I consume so much pinball content. It's kind of crazy that there's hours of videos from random people on the internet. But I actually end up consuming it all, because when I'm in the garage working for 20 hours, I just listen to as much content as I can. Real quick, again, when we talk about efficiency and stuff, here's a video of Turner Pinball's bottom circuit boards. This is honestly one of the smartest things I've seen and know about. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe going a way like this and getting rid of a lot of cable harnessing. It's a lot more efficient. It looks cleaner and cooler, but I think in the end it'll probably save you a little bit of money, or maybe break even in cost. But your time to build it goes down because you don't have to do any wire cabling, even if it's getting machine done. I had reached out to a local wire harness place. They haven't got back to me in over a week. So again, it's hard to rely on people when they can't even give you quotes, because I had said like, just to get an estimate, like this much length of wire, 1,000 pieces crimped with these types of crimps. Because ideally, yeah, you're going to just take Pinball Designer, do all your cable wiring, it measures all the wires, and then I have a tool that can spit out those wires and cut them. It's just the crimp terminals, to have a machine that can automate that, where it just moves over, you put a wire, crimps it, moves over, put another wire, and you can just do it real fast. Like literally in 5 minutes, you could probably crimp 100 cables. So I'm trying to get somewhere like that if I'm going to go the wire harness route. But yeah, the way Turner's doing it is definitely on my mind. He's even got a way to do the lights, which I'm not sure. I'd have to look at a video of it, but I could do something like that where the light gets plugged in. He talks about soldering it, so I'm really curious to see a high detail up of how that would work. But yeah, he's got a really good idea actually on how he does his boards. Other things, here's some videos of some other companies talking about their time to build games.
A playfield goes for a station every 40 minutes. The cabinet's done within 2 hours.
We haven't tried to put a clock exactly on the main parts.
It's probably about 9 hours per game.
Do you think
but then you're breaking that down.
Okay.
Princess Bride playfield takes about 16 hours. Lexi Lightspeed playfield takes on average about 9 hours. Heist playfield takes 20 hours. The Weird Al takes about 20. The base P3 system takes 60.
And I did specifically ask, how many man hours does it take to get from start to finish? 18 to 22.
So here's Barrels of Fun. They say that it takes them 9 hours to make a game. Multimorphic says it takes about 9 hours to build a module, which is like a, their pinball game that's in the back behind their TV. And he says that it takes 60 hours to build just the cabinet. So it's 60 hours for the cabinet plus another 9 for one of their game modules. That's a lot of time. I'm not sure what goes into that. I know some people have showed me how they do it and said it's a lot of intricate details and stuff. For me, I think if I had to build something like that, I would try to cut corners somehow, because 60 hours is a lot of time just for the base cabinet. I feel like maybe there's just a different way they could have done it or designed the module. And then here's another interview on Loser Kid where they said they asked Stern Pinball, and they said it takes, I think around 18 hours, they said. And there's a video going back like a decade or so of Gary Stern saying it takes about 30 hours, I believe.
It's got to be labor intensive. It's very labor intensive. There's 32 man hours of labor in a pinball machine.
So that Stern has been a little bit more efficient. They've gone from 30 some down to about 20. There's been some talk about whether Stern makes their games in the USA, what materials and components, where they get them. Here was just something from Retro Ralph and Cal and some of the guys. They were talking about the tariffs, and they said that someone had mentioned, yeah, most of our stuff is sourced in the USA.
Talking a lot about this because of tariffs. Everybody's talking about tariffs right now. But he was talking about how much of this stuff is actually manufactured in the States.
We've always been U.S. manufacturers, proud to be that regardless of the politics. We are U.S. manufacturers. We are dependent on a lot of other local manufacturers and local suppliers and some things that aren't so local.
Which kind of makes sense, because I don't know why you would get steel parts made in China to ship here. You can get stuff laser cut and bent and pressed literally right there in Chicago. So it would be much easier and probably cheaper, honestly. I don't know why you'd want to ship giant pieces of steel all over the world when it's not like, it's not like a circuit board or something that needs a huge shop to get it done with intricate parts and placement and labor costs. Metal stamping a bunch of parts real quick. Literally, you can put it in a press and go like that. Boom, flipper mech, boom, flipper mech, boom, flip. I mean, to outsource that to China doesn't really make sense. Anyway, I just bring this up because a lot of people have said, like, Stern, all their parts come from China, which I don't see how or why they would do that. I'm even surprised that Jersey Jack gets their playfields done in Germany. I had asked their marketing guy before, Ken, once I met him at a show in Florida, and I asked him why they do their playfields in Germany, and he said, honestly, I don't really know. I have to go research that. Because yeah, you got plywood and all kinds of wood sourced in the U.S. So when you're shipping heavy pieces of wood all the way from Germany, it seems like a lot of shipping costs to do that. And yeah, I don't know. Here's a video of George Gomez on Triple Drain. He's talking about their flipper tech. Just interesting to note, I'll play the clip here, but he mentions that their flipper tech, some of it's in the software, and then they had like redesigned their flipper mechs, and something about like nobody's really figured it out yet, how they do it or to match it. I don't know. Ever since I built my own first flipper mechs, I could build them that hit harder than Stern actually. You just figure out what electrical power you want in your system. It's a steel rod that gets magnetized at the end of the day. It's not any specialized steel that you can't get anywhere or down the road or at Home Depot. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting to hear. So I'll play that clip now.
I had soft flippers, it was floaty and stuff, and Elwin played it. And he came right in my office and goes, "Dude, you got to do something about those flippers." I was like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, oh yeah." He says, "There's been too much water under the bridge. We can't go back to that."
Well, so speaking of flippers, like it's funny how you guys made that change with the bushing when you redid Stranger Things, and ever since then, you already had the snappiest flippers, but they got so much more snappy.
Yeah, that was just about fixing the tool. Really, the tool was getting worn out, so there was like a little bit too much slop in the bearing. Yeah, but so we fixed that, but the snappiness comes from some voodoo we do with how we control them that nobody else has figured out yet.
Here's another one, Triple Drain with Gomez, talking about programmers that come from the video game industry, and they don't really understand how their tech works or whatever. But again, I built all my own tech and circuit boards, and I built all my own software on top of that.
It's like when I get a new programmer and he comes from the video game world, he thinks he knows what's up.
Yeah.
And the reality is that our world is a lot different. I mean, it's a good start. It was a good education. But now let me introduce you to real world physics, and let me introduce you to another control layer that's way more complex than the control layer that you're used to, because all this stuff has to talk to each other. So my animations, my sounds, et cetera, have to be in sync with the device. I mean, you guys heard the most interesting sort of weird evolution of this is the fact that animations created in our software tools are now driving our Kong's mechanics.
Yeah,
right?
that was one of the standout things.
So it's kind of like that's a pretty cool piece of unique tech.
And it's pretty advanced, but I think actually what he's saying here is completely wrong. I'm really not sure his angle or what he's saying, but he's basically talking about how there's a hardware interface, and he talks about playing movie clips. Oh, a movie clip, 5 seconds in can, it shows King Kong going like this, and then in the game, it shows the motors lift up. I mean, that's just a timer. You just say, hey, at timestamp 5 seconds into a movie clip, trigger an event, and it could just be like a whatever event. It's just like, I don't know. Anyway, it's just weird to hear him kind of hypothesize that it's nothing like video game programming when I think it is, and I think it's easier. If you know what actually goes into a video game, it's so much more complex than people even understand. Back on wire harnessing, here's just some videos of some different companies, Barrels of Fun and Stern.
They go up here, they pull their different color wires, they work their piece, make a harness.
And these are where all of the wiring harnesses for every game we still have in production, right, available to be put together. So they're all done by their code names, but
so we're here in the wiring harness section. This is the very first step in building a pinball machine. We got to make sure that we have all the electronic parts available here. So you see what these ladies are doing back here. They're literally hand assembling wiring harnesses. So there's no robots, no anything like that. Just really talented people. We're making these big wiring harnesses. There's about a half a mile.
So if you look at their factory tours, they have what's called, I guess, peg boards, you would call them, harness peg boards. They basically just put a bunch of nails in a replicated version of the game, and they'll put a start point, and then they'll snake it through all these little pegs or nails, whatever. So they'll snake it through and go around and make their wire harness right there on place. Now, again, with my software, you're actually making the wire harness virtually. It's measuring all those wires, and they just come out of a machine and get cut and crimp them. So what you'll basically do is, the way I'm going to do it is you'll put the Pinball Designer in like a factory mode, and you'll just start with all the harnesses and go through them. So it'll highlight what wire is being cut. So you'll go to the cut machine, press a button, it'll feed out the wire, cut it, you terminate it and crimp it, and you set it to the side, because you might need 4 wires to go in a plug, or 8 wires to go in a plug that has 8 wires connected in one jumper connector. So it'll say I'm making a jumper with 8 wires. So it'll do all those 8 wires, you crimp them, and you put them in there, and then you plug them into the pinball machine. You snake them through the machine. It's going to have little clamps that can hold it where the harnesses can kind of go through. And then you go to the next one. And again, it's just, you build them as you go and plug them in and snake them next to each other. And then if you really want to put a tie or whatever, you don't need to, the way I have it set up. I have little C hooks. So what you do is, if this is the base of the playfield, you have a little hook here, and you just, put your cable through it, and you have a bunch of these hooks, and you can just snake them through. So you're not building all the harnesses at once. You're building it as the game is built, and you're plugging them as you go into these circuit boards as you build the playfield. So it's a little bit more efficient, I think. Again, I think all these people are hand doing them and then cutting them. So it just knows all of the lengths from Pinball Designer. That's kind of one of the benefits of that tool, and why I built that and started to do the wiring part of it, is that you can figure out where your circuit boards go, make sure they're not obstructing any other pinball mechanical parts, and then when they're done, you just snake them through, and it says, oh, that's a cable that he dragged his mouse there, and it's a 60-foot cable. We need to cut 60 foot for that one wire, whatever that might be. Here's another Stern factory tour video. It's not really like it's good or bad. It's just a different comparison of my tooling versus theirs. So they have a giant hydraulic press, and for every game they have a plate. I assume it's like steel. It could actually even be plywood. And then they have little nail heads that stick out of it or something. And what they do is they take the press and smash it down into every playfield, and that puts little like marks where the screws are supposed to be driven in. So for one, you need a giant hydraulic press for this. And you need to have a template for every single game that's on the line or that could come back on the line. So they might have like 50 or 100 of these templates stored. So it's a lot of storage, it's a lot of machinery, it's expensive machinery. So again, in Pinball Designer, what you do is you get all the CNC data, you basically cut all your inlays and stuff out. Then, you know, the drill head comes back to the 0 location. You pull out that drill head and then you put like a little pilot hole drill, just a normal drill bit, and then you run the next executable, which would be the pilot hole one. So it actually goes in and takes a drill and drills pilot holes. It doesn't just put little, what I'm guessing Stern's machine does is it's like a nail head for every single screw. And they also probably have to manually build that. I'm not sure how they get that data to set that up. So they got all these little pins coming down, smashing, and just putting little imprints. It's not actually drilling pilot holes, and it's not doing them to a specific depth. So if you have little rail guides like this, right, and you want these to go in and they need to be drill holed at a certain depth, that's something that my tool does, and it just comes right out of that CNC, so I don't need any other extra machinery. What else do we got? Here's another interesting thing. Retro Ralph talking about how Stern redid their menus.
When we went through the factory tour, they were doing the testing of all the coils and stuff. And the menu's awesome because the one thing that's kind of a bummer if you have a problem at home or you're an operator, you have to go get the manual out to figure out kind of where things are. Well, now if you do a coil test, it's going to show you exactly. It has a little sort of map of the game and it shows you where it is.
Yeah.
That is amazing for an operator, I think.
This is great.
Where you can actually see the lights on the playfield light up on an actual image map of the playfield. This is something that I already have. It's just kind of funny that he got so excited about this. Like, it shows where the coil is and this and that. They should actually do this for gameplay though. That's one of my biggest issues that I'm, solving, that I think they miss, is that when you go to mode select, a lot of times, even in Metallica, it's just text and says, yeah, fade to black, shoot shots. It doesn't tell you how it works or how it's going to work or what shots they look like. So on the screen, I wish that the game designers would actually put an image of the playfield or like a smaller version of the shot and say like, hey, in this mode, you got to hit this arrow, or it could come up while you're playing. Like, they just never show you visually what you need to do or how to do it. It's just kind of text, even though they have an LCD screen to train you and tell you how the game works. The best thing you get is that little play card in the bottom left that just, again, is all text, and it says, hey, multi-ball, do this and get a multi-ball. Like, those rule cards don't really help you that much. Nobody reads them, and they're not really that informative. You really have to go to the PDF and read the 20-page game design document to understand how these games work. Another thing is just, here's George Gomez talking about how they redid the menu system.
The menu selections, right? And, we're probably going to upset some operators, but the menu selections were done with so over time, menus had evolved to be what they were.
Yeah.
And so, you may have guys that remember that, adjustment number 35 or whatever is this.
Yeah, even going on my Foo Fighters game, when you go through the settings, you get one at a time. So it'll say like global illumination brightness, and then you hit the left flipper, it slides over, and it's like flipper power, slide it over, left flipper power, slide it over, scoop power, slide it over. So it's like all these adjustments. It's really an archaic old system, and it's all like it's rendered as if it's a dot matrix display. It's kind of stupid. So if you look at any modern game, like a video game or Jersey Jack, or I don't know what other companies do it, but yeah, you get like a giant menu that shows you all your options so you can navigate really quick. You can visually see all the options. This is, again, something that I had in where, when you go, you get a big menu that says, here's your 8 main options. And then when you go into like light test, it prints every single light. So you can see visually like, oh, this one's way over here and I know it's going to scroll down. So I need to hit like this flipper like 50 times. So you just smash it until because visually you can see right away where you want to go. I need to go about 50 units that way. And you just start slamming it and it cycles down through the rows until it gets to that light. Anyway, it's just something to complain about, but it's something that should have been done. And it's funny that people find it so, like, hearing Retro Ralph be so excited about it, it's kind of funny. Here's another one from Gomez talking about how people claim that they're better players than they think they are, and they cannot actually get to wizard modes and other features in their games.
So it's when they buy one and then they feel.
I also think, let's be honest. I think here's my opportunity to say hard things.
Go for it. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that they can't play at the level that they claim they're missing.
That's.
I mean, come on. Let's be real. Let's be real. I mean, it's like wait, you heard on some forum that this thing is missing, and now you're obsessed with this thing that's missing. The reality is, it's not you can't play at that level, or you don't get to that thing, or you don't even know.
Kind of talking down to the player as if, you know, you got to get good or better, or you're never going to see these features. And I think that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Now, I'm not saying George Gomez is dumb. I'm not saying that he doesn't make good games. I don't know every game he's made. I'm just saying this specific comment goes against everything I believe as a designer, and especially in pinball. I think withholding wizard modes or these other modes that you won't see, they're part of the game. You know, coming from video games, I used to play like Resident Evil, Uncharted, all these single player games where you get to play here and you get to experience the whole game to the end. You can die as many times as you need to. You can put it on super hard mode, so you know you actually want to die and make it difficult, but you do get to see the whole game. And I think not seeing the whole game, especially even on my Foo Fighters, I've only been to like a wizard mode once, the mini wizard mode, like once or twice. I drain a lot on this game compared to other games. I don't know, I think I just suck at it, but there's some issues I have with the geometry and stuff. But again, there's a lot of stuff I don't experience in that game and other games, and certainly there's way worse players than I am that exist in the world. So to just say like, yeah, you suck and you're not going to get to experience the whole game because you're not a good player, I think that's a terrible design. I think that needs to be fixed, and I have some ideas on fixing that. But yeah, it's kind of weird to say that. Like, you bought this product for 7 or 15 grand and you're telling me that I'm not going to get to experience it. And most people won't get to experience the full game that you have. Lastly, here's just an old clip. I don't know, I thought this was interesting. This is Keith Elwin talking about how he only took 2 weeks to make the James Bond 60th game, and then from there it was like he never touched a single thing.
In Bond 60th, I designed a game in like 2 weeks, and it's one of my favorite shooting games too. You know, knock that out, and at the first Whitewood we shot, I was like, wow, hardly anything needs to change on this.
So this is a game that took 2 weeks to make, and then they charged, I think, $15,000 to $20,000 for it. Oh yeah, one other thing. So Looney Tunes came out. I had made a video talking about how they never put a shooter rod in any of the spooky games. Here they are with Evil Dead. It looks like they got another game with no shooter rod. Are they just like anti-plunging skill shots? Like what? Can somebody interview them and ask them if this is a design choice for some specific reason? Bill of material cost, it saves them $10 per game or something. I don't know. I'm very curious why they don't do it. All right, so if you got this far, anyway, what's coming up next is I'm hoping to finish this small side project. And then from there, we're going to go, whether I finish it or not, I'm going to kind of put a timestamp on it. And then we're going to go right back to Pinball Designer. We're going to go through rebuilding a couple of different games. So you can see how the code interface and everything works. And I hope that we'll get the beta out. We'll start selling it at some point, and we'll start moving that product further along. Having a kid is coming around the corner. My time is getting less and less. I do get a lot of time off for work. We're going to share baby time. We'll see how the baby is. We'll see what my energy drain is and how much time I get. But I'm just living it day by day. I've promised things like even going back 5 years ago saying I was going to do certain things, but I kind of put it to the side. I want to iterate. I want to get things as good as possible. And I don't want to start releasing products and then people coming and, you know, requesting different things or saying this is broke. And then it's like, well, shoot, I got a baby on the way. Somebody already gave me money. I'm kind of obligated, I feel personally, to like, you know, make my customers happy. And if I'm not, now they're going to start going on the internet and, you know, saying bad about my company, and I'm not, you know, giving them what they wanted and they paid as a paying customer. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out see where it goes. I might wait to just release Pinball Designer till after the baby, see what my time is, and then also it might just release with all the circuit boards and everything. So I had 3 steps in releasing it: was the software, the circuit boards, and then maybe like the custom shop and cutting all the metal parts and everything. So I might just release 1 and 2 at the same time and delay it a little bit. So yeah, hopefully get you guys an update in 1 or 2 weeks here, and we'll start getting things more further along in the company.